Welcome to Walking the Torah Portions. I'm Tyler Merwin, and this is Torah Portion MIKETZ. MIKETZ starts in Genesis 41:1 and goes to 44:17. The Haftarah this week is 1 Kings 3:15 to 4:1. MIKETZ means at the end of, as in the opening Torah line of the portion that says after 2 whole years, after would be MIKETZ, or at the end of 2 whole years, Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing by the Nile. In this week's portion, we continue the Joseph narrative. It begins with Pharaoh having a dream. Well, 2 actually. Genesis 41:1 through 8 says, After 2 whole years, Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing by the Nile, and behold, there came up out of the Nile 7 cows, attractive and plump, and they fed in the reed grass. And behold, 7 other cows, ugly and thin, came up out of the Nile after them, and stood by the other cows on the bank of the Nile. And the ugly, thin cows ate up the 7 attractive, plump cows. And Pharaoh awoke, and he fell asleep and dreamed a second time. And behold, 7 ears of grain, plump and good, were growing on one stalk. And behold, after them sprouted 7 ears, thin and blighted by the east wind. And the thin ears swallowed up the 7 plump ears, the full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. So in the morning his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt, and all its wise men. Pharaoh told them his dreams, but there was none who could interpret them to Pharaoh. After this, Pharaoh's cupbearer remembers how Joseph, in prison, interpreted his dreams, and reports this to Pharaoh. Pharaoh then orders Joseph to be brought to him. Joseph is quickly cleaned, shaved, clothed, and presented to Pharaoh. We pick up in verse 15 and 16. It says, And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have had a dream, and there is no one who can interpret it. I have heard it said that of you, that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it. Joseph answered Pharaoh, It is not in me. God will give Pharaoh a favorable answer. Shalom is the Hebrew word that's translated in this verse for favorable, or the favorable answer. And it's most commonly translated and associated with our word peace. But shalom means so much more than peace or absence of conflict. Other English words that describe shalom are completeness, soundness, and welfare. It's a peace that is not dependent on or affected by outside circumstances. It's an inner peace that only the Holy One can truly give, a peace that surpasses all understanding. God will give Pharaoh this peace that he will understand exactly what the dreams are meant to tell him. So God interprets the dream through Joseph, as we pick up in verse 26 through 30. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dreams are one. The 7 lean and ugly cows that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty ears blighted by the east wind are also 7 years of famine. It is as I told Pharaoh. God has shown to Pharaoh what he is about to do. There will come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt, but after them there will arise 7 years of famine, and all the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Egypt. I find it interesting the parallels of Joseph's and Pharaoh's dreams. Pharaoh's dream had 2 dreams that were really the same events. 7 years of plenty followed by 7 years of famine, both cows and grain. Joseph's 2 dreams were the same events, the sheaves bowing down and the stars, sun and moon, bowing down to Joseph. Pharaoh's 2 dreams are what God used to release Joseph from prison and eventually bring to fulfillment Joseph's 2 dreams. After Joseph's interpretation, he counsels Pharaoh to store up grain in the years of plenty under Pharaoh's authority to be used during the lean years of famine. This counsel pleases Pharaoh and all his servants. Pharaoh appoints Joseph to oversee this task and places him second in command over all Egypt. Pharaoh then gives Joseph a few items that I find interesting. In Genesis 41, 42, and 43, it says, "Then Pharaoh took his signet ring from his hand and put it on Joseph's hand, and clothed him in garments of fine linen, and put a chain about his neck. And he made him ride in his second chariot. And they called out before him, 'Bow the knee.' Thus he set him over all the land of Egypt." Do any of these items seem familiar from last week's Torah portion? Remember the kingly pledge that Judah gave to Tamar? The signet ring, the cord, and the staff? Here we see Joseph getting the signet ring, a gold necklace, which is like a cord used to hold the signet ring, and his new position of leadership, literally a shepherd to keep the people alive, which would allude to the staff. Another connection is, once again, a garment change. We talked about how it's not clear from the text what exactly made Joseph's special robe so special. But I do find it interesting that one of the most popular descriptions we find about this coat was that it was a coat of many colors. His new garment, or identity, given by Pharaoh, was a garment of fine linen. This Hebrew word literally means bleached stuff, emphasizing the whiteness of the linen. As we know from science class, white light is actually created when you combine all the colors together as one. This would mean that his first garment was one of many separated colors, but his new garment was one of all the colors together in echad. This is an awesome picture of his calling that will in fact bring back the family of Israel together as one in echad. Along with these things, Joseph is also given a wife, Asenath, daughter of Potiphera, the priest of On. On is a city in Egypt. Then he tells us that Joseph was 30 years old. This is another parallel to Yeshua, who began his work at about the same age. And you can find that in Luke 3:23. So Joseph built storehouses and stored about 1/5 of the grain during the 7 years of plenty. During this time, Joseph had 2 sons, and we read in Genesis 41, 51, and 52, Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, or we say Manasseh. For he said, "God has made me forget all my hardship and all my father's house." The name of the second he called Ephraim, or we'll say Ephraim. For God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. So we have forgetful and fruitful. Chapter 42 brings us back to Jacob as they are feeling the hard effects of the famine in the land of Canaan. Jacob sends 10 of his sons to make a trip down to Egypt to buy grain. Benjamin is kept home because Jacob feared something might happen to him. When the boys arrive in Egypt, they approach Joseph, and we're going to pick up in verse 7. Joseph saw his brothers and recognized them, but he treated them like strangers and spoke roughly to them. "Where do you come from?" he said. They said, "From the land of Canaan to buy food." And Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. And Joseph remembered the dreams that he had dreamed of them. And he said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see the nakedness of the land." They said to him, "No, my lord, your servants have come to buy food. We are all sons of one man. We are honest men. Your servants have never been spies." He said to them, "No, it is the nakedness of the land that you have come to see." And they said, "We, your servants, are 12 brothers, the son of one man in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is no more." But Joseph said to him, It is as I have said to you, you are spies. By this you shall be tested. By the life of Pharaoh, you shall not go from this place unless your youngest brother comes here. Send one of you and let him bring your brother while you remain confined, that your words may be tested, whether there is truth in you. Or else, by the life of Pharaoh, surely you are spies. And he put them all together in custody for 3 days. Genesis 42, 7 through 17. So Joseph is suddenly reunited with the same 10 brothers that sold him into slavery. The dreams that God gave him years earlier come rushing back to him as they bow before him. Seeing how the story plays out, it seems that Joseph is concerned with two main things. One would be the 2 prophetic dreams that were given to him by Adonai. And the other is to see really if his brothers had a heart change from their hatred and bitterness that they had towards him and towards Rachel and the children of Rachel. As for the dreams, the first dream was 11 sheaves belonging to his brothers bowing down to Joseph's sheaves. And after that dream, the second was 11 stars, which were his brothers, with the sun and moon, dad and mom, bowing down to him. So for the first dream to be fulfilled, he would also need Benjamin, since only 10 sheaves were actually there. He also knows that putting them through some trials and tests will reveal their heart, kind of like how God does with us. So Joseph also accuses them of being spies, which is interesting because that's exactly what he was accused of to be by his brothers when they were growing up. So he devises a plan to get Benjamin to come up and to test his brothers at the same time. He takes Simeon as a prisoner and sends the other 9 back with orders to return with Benjamin if they want to buy grain again. The brothers are convinced that all this is happening to them because of what they had done to their brother Joseph years ago, and they openly discuss this among themselves, of course speaking in Hebrew. Joseph is in their midst and is able to understand them, but they are unaware, thinking he is an Egyptian, because they spoke to one another through translators. He orders them to be loaded up with grain and put their money back in their sacks and send them off back to Canaan. The brothers are greatly troubled when they discover their money in their feed sacks on their journey home. They do get home and report the whole affair to Jacob. Jacob is greatly troubled by losing Simeon and states that he will not risk sending Benjamin to Egypt. Reuben tries to step up and do the firstborn thing by guaranteeing the life of Benjamin by offering to let Jacob slay Reuben's 2 sons, which of course are Jacob's grandsons, and he is unsuccessful. It's like, really, Reuben? You can kill your grandchildren? But Jacob refuses Reuben's offer, and we open in chapter 43, 1 through 5, with now the famine was severe in the land, and when they had eaten the grain that they had bought from Egypt, their father said to them, "Go again, buy us a little food." But Judah said to him, "The man solemnly warned us, saying, 'You shall not see my face unless your brother is with you. If you will send our brother with us, we will go down and buy food. But if you will not send him, we will not go down. For the man said to us, you shall not see my face unless your brother is with you.'" Some time had passed between the end of chapter 42 and the beginning of chapter 43. Here we see Judah stepping up into the leadership role of the tribes as he reasons with his father to return with Benjamin. We pick up in Genesis 43, 8 and 9. "And Judah said to Israel his father, 'Send the boy with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and you and also our little ones. I will be a pledge of his safety. From my hand you shall require him. If I do not bring him back to you and set him before you, then let me bear the blame forever.'" Judah pledges himself for Benjamin's safety. Jacob, being so broken from losing Joseph 22 years earlier, was able to release Benjamin to Judah because Judah also had lost 2 children of his own. Of all the brothers, Judah was the only one who could understand Jacob's pain and the pain his father would experience if Benjamin were lost also. Jacob finally gives in and lets Benjamin return with the others on another trip back to Egypt to buy grain. Upon their arrival in Egypt, they are invited to eat with Joseph, and Simeon is restored back to them. Joseph arranges them at the table by birth order and makes Benjamin's portion 5 times more than the others. By showing favoritism to Benjamin, Joseph is looking for signs of jealousy or envy since Benjamin is also a son of Rachel. He loads them up again with grain and returns their money back to their sacks, but places a silver goblet in Benjamin's sack and sends them off. After they had gone a short while, Joseph has his servant chase them down and accuse them of stealing, which they all deny, when we read in Genesis 44:11 through 14, "Then each man quickly lowered his sack to the ground, and each man opened his sack, and he searched, beginning with the eldest and ending with the youngest, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. Then they tore their clothes, and every man loaded his donkey, and they returned to the city. When Judah and his brothers came to Joseph's house, he was still there. They fell before him to the ground." This is believed to be the fulfillment of Joseph's first dream. Earlier, the brothers had bowed down to him in respect and courtesy, but now they are truly bowing down to him because their very lives are in Joseph's hands. And this portion ends in Genesis 44:15 through 17 with, "Joseph said to them, 'What deed is this that you have done? Why do you not know that a man like me can indeed practice divination?' And Judah said, 'What shall we say to my Lord? What shall we speak? Or how can we clear ourselves? God has found out the guilt of your servants. Behold, we are my Lord's servants, both we and he also in whose hand the cup has been found.' But he said, 'Far be it from me that I should do so. Only the man in whose hand the cup was found shall be my servant. But as for you, go up in peace to your father.'" So, was Joseph practicing divination? I don't think so. Identifying the cup as his cup of divination placed a high value on such an item, which would justify the pursuit and the treatment he was giving them, another part of the ruse he was playing on them. He also doesn't say directly to his brothers, "I practice divination," but rather, "A man like me can practice divination." Judah again steps up as the leader and clearly ties what's happening to the sin that they incurred by selling Joseph. Joseph releases the 10 to go free, but says he will keep Benjamin as a slave. By holding Ben, Joseph is hoping to truly see the hearts of his brothers towards his only full brother, the other son of Rachel, the favorite. Will they abandon Benjamin like they abandoned Joseph 22 years ago? This is truly a cliffhanger we are left with as we await the answers in next week's Torah portion. As members of the covenant grafted into the natural vine through Yeshua, we too will be put through tests and trials. God already knows us better than we know ourselves. Most of the time, the test we are put through is to show us what's truly inside of ourselves. Are we true and righteous, or are we found lacking in certain areas? But take heart that the God of all creation cares enough about you to test you so that you and me can be conformed into the image of Yeshua, our Messiah. I pray this teaching has been edifying to you. Let's lift up the name of the Holy One with love in Echad. Shalom.